So it's been about 2 years since I've actually come out here looking for coho salmon. The last time was in May 5th of 2019. And I saw a bunch out here. But I didn't get the chance to come out last year and come look for them. And with it being in April, I was really surprised to find one a couple days ago. I didn't think that it was time for them to start heading downstream just yet. So I think that they ran a little bit earlier this year, which with the way that our weather patterns have been going, it only makes sense. It's also interesting to note that I've never once living here in the 4 years that I've been here and coming down to this creek quite regularly, I've never actually seen an adult salmon in this creek. So I don't know if these are planted fish or if they're just super sneaky or there's just not enough of them that you actually notice. I will include a clip that has spawning coho that I've seen from another creek. It's really interesting to watch. I think that they're amazing fish. They are highly susceptible to pollution. One of the main things that we have to look out for is pre-spawn mortality when they are spawning adults coming back in. They usually come with the rain, so when it starts to do a heavy rainfall in October, that's usually when it signals the fish as they're waiting right outside. It signals their bodies to come in because that lets them know that the creeks and streams have risen enough that they can hopefully safely make their passage through. If they come too early, the water is going to be way too shallow and they won't be able to make it all the way up. And if they come too late, they lose out on having a mating partner, or the water is just going to be too turbulent. Storms have come in at that point, and it's just going to be a lot harder for them. So being able to get that window, and in the stream where I do surveys at, that it's a little further from here where I'm gonna put the video in of them spawning. Typically on Halloween is when we start to see them, and then after that they'll run from around Halloween to middle of November.
See? Mm-hmm. Ooh, is that 3?
There's
one in the back. Is that a different one?
I see one. I see her. No, I think it's just...
Yeah, there are 3. Because that's a male spawning on the female, and there's a littler male behind.
Okay, I see him. He's underneath the...
It's like I almost don't want to disturb him.
Just let them finish what they're doing.
Like, go around. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. It's such a hard life. And oh, there's digging.
Oh, snap. Oh, yeah. There is 3. I don't see 4 though, I just see the 3.
I was wondering because I saw one shoot up. Oh, nice.
So here we have the life cycle of this coho salmon, or most salmon in general. They are anadromous, meaning that they go from freshwater to saltwater and then back to freshwater again for spawning season. They only spawn one time and then they die and they become part of the environment. Salmon are one of our keystone species. They're extremely important to the Pacific Northwest. They provide a key element into the soil. Salmon contain a very special element called the N15. It's a marine-derived element. their bodies absorb it while they're out into the ocean and they're eating ocean animals. Most of their diet comes from being out in the ocean, and when they start coming back to spawn, they don't eat anymore. So as soon as they hit the fresh water, that's it, they're done eating. And then they'll spend the rest of their time being alive, just trying to make it back up their natal stream, finding a partner, spawning, and then they finally lay down to rest. Once their bodies start decaying, it puts this nutrient back into the soil. They provide not only a particular nutrient for our plants and soil, they're also highly nutritious for the wildlife that eats them, such as bears, scavenger birds, and other small mammals. Out in the broad daylight like this, they are, pretty good pickings for any predators that might be around, such as myself. I mean, not that I would do anything to them, but I am a predator still. So they'll dart and they'll move around. They're probably hiding somewhere inside this water. Actually, I see one. Let's see if I can get a little closer. He is by the red rock. Doesn't help. There he is. So in identifying these little guys, we have 5 main species of Pacific Northwest salmon here and 2 species of trout. And they don't necessarily all look similar, but when they're this tiny and small and we can only see them from a distance, it's good to know the key identifying factors. So the very first thing that I look for is the orange tint in their fins. So his caudal tail has an orange tint to it, his dorsal fin, his pectoral fins, and his anal fin. You also want to look for those pyre marks that are along their body, the big, nice, bold black marks. They go along the lateral line of him, that they're nice and parallel with one another, and they run alongside him in a very even pattern. So this doesn't look like much. However, there he goes. See him? This is a case maker. This is a macroinvertebrate. You usually find them in streams or, I guess more like streams or creeks. I wouldn't say rivers. But he builds this case that he lives in, which is pretty cool. And then they attach themselves to rocks, and the case is what protects him. I don't want to keep him in the water for too long. So here's the case maker, as far as identification purposes, or just if you wanted to know more about them. And this is the So then what makes really good salmon habitat? So when you're looking at restoring an area, or if you're looking to see if it's a good spot for our little salmon guys, you want to think of all of their stages. So their egg stage, their adult stage, and their juvenile stage. It doesn't help to have an area that's good for adults if they come through to spawn, and if they spawn, their juveniles have nothing to really help them out and they all die, or vice versa. So every stage is going to be important in providing the correct habitat necessary. So with this creek, it isn't a highly urbanized area, and there is a lot of runoff that occurs here. But for the most part, the water is pretty clear, and it's pretty cold, and it's as good as I guess it's going to get for an urbanized area. So one of the things that we want to make sure that you have You want this large woody debris, and you want to make sure it's a conifer species. So like this is some old conifer. I'm not entirely sure what kind of tree it used to be. It might have been a cedar, which is great because that means it'll last the longest. But you can see how it created this nice pool here. There's shade over here. So in the middle of the day when the sun is shining really hard on this spot, it gives the baby somewhere to go to get out of the sun exposure. It also is going to create a better area for insects to be able to collect and gather in these smaller little spots. Like you can see in that area right there, the water doesn't move quite as fast. It can be a resting pool for them, or it can be a collection spot for insects. You also have all these rocks here. There's macroinvertebrates all throughout here, which are these tiny little bugs that live in the water. They're all aquatic. That is also going to provide a really great and nutrient-dense food source for them. And then you have this tree right through there that's also going to provide even more shade and structure. It gives them more places to hide. So think about if you were this teeny tiny, this size little guy, and you're coming through an area that's, we don't have too many trees offering canopy cover through here. But there are a ton of birds. There's dogs that run through here. There's raccoons. There's possums. I mean, there's all sorts of predators that exist. And so having places where they can hide away from them is extremely crucial to them. On the flip side of that, when you want to think about adults coming up through, and I've never seen them, so I'm not even sure how they utilize this creek. But these are nice. This is a nice area. The water's not running too fast. They have certain spots through here that they can come off to the side and rest if they need to. They can come along this area. And I'm hoping that there's more water in here. It usually fills up with some more water. Just gives them a nice little resting spot. You don't want an area that's just a straight highway, because they are tired when they're spawning. They don't have much left for their energy reserves, and so you want to make sure they have plenty of places they can rest stop it, like if you're on a long car trip. You see, this is another really good pooling spot. And then when you have spots like this, so obviously they can't fly, so they're gonna have to jump up and out of the water and then up to there. And so this water is deep enough that they'll go deep under, they'll go as far deep as they can back here, and then they'll swim up and then plunge up and out of the water to try to make it up to there. So when you see a spawning salmon and its body is super tattered and it's missing like parts of its fin or its face or just body parts in general, it's from doing stuff like that, where they're just beating themselves up against all of this kind of debris or concrete or just anything that stands in their way. I'm not gonna walk over there because I think there are some people living on the other side, but as in, transit people. I'd just rather leave them alone. But I thought you guys would find that interesting. Not the transit people part, but the car part. Hey guys, so I hope you found that helpful or informative or just fun like I do. I love coming out here and looking for these guys. I think it's always so exciting when I can find them. If there was anything you'd like to know more, just let me know. Or if you maybe had some information that maybe I didn't quite cover the way that you learned it, I would love to hear that. Sometimes I get inside my own head sometimes, or I'm thinking faster than I'm talking, and you kind of get a little scrambled. So I love hearing what other people also have to say about these kind of things. Yeah, just see, I can't even think right now. Yeah, geez.